Okay.
Welcome to African Conservation Podcast. Today with us is Will Wilson, a photographer and conservation storyteller who's been living in Africa for the past, 7 years, between Sudan, Rwanda, and now Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. Hello, Will.
Hey, nice to see you. Thank you for having me on. It's a real
Yeah,
pleasure to be here.
So
Thank you.
I was wondering what took you the first time, let's say, to Sudan, or was it work?
So it's my wife's work. My wife works with the British government. So she worked at the embassy there. So that's what took me and at the time, my 7-month-old baby out there. So yeah, as a family, we moved.
And when I met you, you were leaving Rwanda, where you had been, I think, working with gorilla doctors, right?
Yes, yeah. So whilst in Rwanda, whilst we're based there, I work with guerrilla doctors. I work with the Rwandan Development Board. I work with African parks, host of different conservation organizations or areas doing conservation and doing it really well, to be fair.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
They were, how do you say, giving you tasks or documentaries to do? How does it work?
So really interesting. I guess my foray into photography, or at least into wildlife photography, I've been doing photography, if we call it doing it as a verb,
Yeah.
for the last probably about 15, 20 years. But it only really took off in the wildlife sector when I got to Rwanda and started basically fell in love with birds and started posting on social media. Conservation organizations saw my photos and asked me to then come and photograph either the wildlife they had in their parks or teach photography to elements of their personnel and staff. So that's kind of how it got into it. And yeah, it went from strength to strength. Not to be fair, I thought it would take off as quickly as it did. And there was really quite a good market for conservate both international and local conservation organizations to get in touch. So much so, I was studying for a BA in photography at the time, and I had to cancel it 2/3 of the way through to actually go out and do the work and work with them. So the opportunities came, and I kind of put that above learning how to do, I don't know, a photo album for a band or something. So that's kind of what took me away from it, which is great. But yeah, that's how it started.
So now I'm very interested in the training. You were mentioning training for staff working for local organizations. Um,
Yep.
how how would it work? Would you go in the field with them, or is it like a theory at the beginning? How is it?
So, two different organizations. One, a local Rwandan conservation organization called Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Authority, RWCA. And so I went down and helped their team. They work on a big natural or a nature reserve, and were gifted a whole load of cameras from all sorts of different donor organizations, but they didn't know how to use them or put them to best use. So I went down and did theory over 2 weeks, taught them everything from basically mechanics and functions, but then also how to actually take a proper photograph, the different ways of doing it, and then taken through the whole photography process. And because of that, Rwanda Development Board and African Parks, who run the national parks within Rwanda, obviously, but they're one of them in Nyungwe in the west, Nyungwe National Park. So it's an Afro montane rainforest, absolutely stunning. It is beautiful, but they have communities of chimpanzees there. So I went and stayed in the park with the chimpanzee trackers and their research and conservation department and taught them basically how to do ID photographs and capture behavior of their chimpanzees so they can better understand and create databases for their communities. So what started as theory for a day and a half in the classroom, which was nice and easy, trying to track and follow chimpanzees and teach photography in a montane rainforest, following chimp communities plus the trackers are like between 20 and 25, and I'll just say nicely closer to 50. So my heart rate tracker was telling me my heart rate was over 170, trying to keep up with these guys and teach photography. So it's quite fun, but right, what's the best word to describe it? Yeah, not an easy job, but great fun.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. And those chimps, are they habituated or are they difficult to catch a glimpse of? No.
So they are habituated, the groups we were working with. However, what I quickly became clear very quickly was the fact that a lot of the time when tourists go down to see the chimpanzee, they go first thing in the morning, early in the morning, especially in the montane rainforest there. That's largely one for the weather, two because they've just come down for their roost and they're eating, and they're quite static in one location. So we go down after that, And then as they finish their food and they go on their, let's call it a shopping trip across the national park looking for their next meal, we have to keep up. So yes, habituated. However, not really with us in mind and looking for food makes it a bit harder to actually do the job we're trying to do. So yeah, interesting.
I'm sure, because I've seen them in Kibale, but it was a bit dry, so it was okay. But I can imagine like in mountain environment tracking with the mud and then the plants everywhere. You got to use a machete to follow them. It's must be so tiring. Like you said, those guys they've grown up in the area, so they are very used to walking in this conditions. But us Europeans is a complete different story.
No. Yeah, completely agree.
Is Nyungwe fenced or is it open to like neighboring communities?
It is. Is it fenced now? No, it's not. But it's guarded and patrolled and looked after very well. There is movement in and around the park, but it covers a vast array of area. And Nyungwe as a park, it's actually stunning. So no, it's not covered off as such, but it is patrolled. And I think if you think it's on the west, so therefore Burundi and Lake Kivu and the border with DRC come down. So those borders are quite heavily patrolled, is probably a nice way of putting it, or the best way to do so.
Of course. Did you, when you walk in the forest with the rangers and the staff from the conservation researchers, do you encounter, like any snares or deforestation attempts, any camps, like wild, illegal camps sometimes?
I didn't, no. And that's probably the areas that we were in. The further down towards the Burundi border, you're probably likely to get there. But there, because of that lack of security and obviously access, what you're talking about there, the bushmeat poaching and the rest of it, is not really the areas that we were living or going down and where the chimpanzees are. And there, whilst their range is quite large, it's some of it, one of the populations is just outside. It's like a branch off of the national park. So it's actually quite secluded. Okay. So that one, no, not at all. But up in Volcanoes National Park or in Akagera or the other parks, then that's very different. Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Volcanoes, you've worked also in Volcanoes National Park?
Yeah, so that's, as you mentioned, with gorilla doctors. So worked with them in Rwanda, but then also in Congo and Kahuzi-Biega National Park, not with mountain gorillas, but with Grauer's gorillas. And again, absolutely fascinating to see the different environments, the different habitats, and also the different ways that the neighboring countries, as far as their wildlife authorities, how they do their job, and also the vastly different environments that they're having to work in and the restraints put on each of those different environments. You talked about going through Nyungwe National Park and how much of an impact that was. I think the worst or the most severe contrast for me was in Kahuzi-Biega National Park. Whereas in Rwanda, the gorillas, the families are all habituated and it's really quite easy. In Kahuzi-Biega, that's not the case. There's 3 different families and only one's habituated. So whilst they did work with the gorilla doctors while they were doing health checks on that habituated group, we also helped with the habituation process and went out with unhabituated gorillas, Grauer's gorillas. And if you think Grauer's gorillas, so a silverback of a mountain gorilla, add 100 pounds, and then you get a silverback of a Grauer's gorilla. They are big, big guys. And unfortunately, because of the environment and the past and the conflict and the poaching, a lot of the gorillas that are now silverbacks have actually seen mum and dad being taken away by poachers. So their understanding and experience of humans is pretty negative. So that habituation process is very different and not easy. We followed, it was Batwa pygmies who were the trackers. Now they come up to about just my chest level really, and they were using machetes to hack through vines, bamboo and all sorts. I was, because of my height, on all fours, carrying a camera with a backpack for about 9 hours a day trying to get a glimpse of these Grauer's gorillas. So again, a pretty intense and interesting situation, but absolutely amazing. Such a privilege to be able to go see those animals in the wild.
So is gorilla doctors are the ones conducting the habituation also there with the Grauer's gorilla?
So they have in Kahuzi-Biega, they had a vet that was based there that looked after the Grauer's gorillas. So yes, she would look, and it was she is a force of absolute nature, this wildlife vet. So she would look after both the habituated and unhabituated. So if she'd go spend time with the habituated group, but then also then go out with the habituation patrol and have a look at the health of the unhabituated all going through the process and see the impact of that. So guerrilla doctors, and what I love about guerrilla doctors as an organization, based in the US, yes, but the places where they are in Rwanda, Uganda, and DRC are Congolese vets, Rwandese vets, Ugandan vets that are actually doing the job on the ground. The only organization providing health, emergency first aid and healthcare to the guerrilla populations in those countries. Absolutely amazing to actually go and see and experience and see how they do their jobs. Not only that, how they use photography within their health checks, because obviously you think of our pets, they become ill and have to go to the vet. We take them to the vet, yes, and then the vet can pick them up, have a look around, and everything's great. These guys, no, there's a problem up on a volcano. Guess what? The vet has to trek up to them, sedate them, provide first aid or medical treatment, and then come back. So it's hugely different, but wow, what an absolute awe-inspiring. Yeah, that's all I can really say about it.
As long as photography goes, what kind of data do they need? Do they need faces like chimps and gorillas? Do they identify with the faces, like the marks or the scars? How does it work? I know about elephants, but primates, I don't know too much.
So really interesting. Both are very, very different. Gorillas, I would say they're easier, but when you've got over 1,000 mountain gorillas, trying to tell the difference is, for me, very obviously very difficult. But the trackers know it's all to do with their nose print, their creases and folds and the shape of their noses with gorillas, mountain gorillas. That's how you identify them. With chimps, that's not the case. It's the color of the hair, the bit taken out the ear, the shape color of the eyes, the shape of the face, the gait. Very, very different, and a whole lot seems, as trackers, you get to know that personality of that individual, and that's how you can make that understanding. So that with the gorillas, it's a lot easier because of that nose print, but the chimpanzees not so.
I can imagine when you're trekking in Congo to look for Grauer's gorilla, having a close-up picture of the nose of a gorilla is can be very challenging, no?
Yes, very much so. I mean, at this point, or at least the point when I was there, and this is now, what are we in now, 2026, so 3 years ago when I was there, nearly 4 years ago, that I was with them. And at that point, really, so habituation process can take anything, depending on the individuals and the type of animal, can take anything from 6 months, a year, up to 10 years, depending on that animal. And so the process looks at, you're trying to gain access to the group, but it's not any member of that group, it's the silverback. Because the silverback within the group will dictate how the rest of the party or the rest of the family group reacts to you. If the silverback's nice and chilled and calm, the rest will follow suit. If they're not and aggressive in the charge, again, the others will follow suit. So, and what I found was epically difficult, because you're thinking of primary jungle through vines, bamboo, really quite thick, epically. So you can imagine us hacking this group, hacking through machetes to get access, and maybe 20 meters, 10 meters away, you'll find a female Grauer's gorilla lying on you can just about make out a face, you can make out everything, and she'll look at you, and you look at her, and then, boff, gone. You're like, and again you start. So after 6 hours, and it's amazing how big these animals are, and yet how quiet and how at home they are. And I saw the same with the chimpanzees in Nyungwe. The speed that they cover the ground was just mind-blowing. And it just puts us, and it shows us how us humans are just really not adapted to that environment, or once were, but not anymore. It's probably the best way of putting it, I think. Huh?
That's why, like the pygmies, they are so used, and they have been living there for thousands of years. So of course they've evolved.
Correct.
They know how to do it. We go there, we get eaten alive by bugs and mosquitoes, and we drown in the mud and the rivers. But these guys, I've seen them, they know how to fish when the water is very shallow. They know how to find roots and plants and leaves. And I'm sure that the wildlife you were mentioning, that the past of the bushmeat, the poaching, even actual in some places, and the gorillas in DRC, would they be scared running away or scared charging you? Is it a bit of both, or it depends? Usually away?
So initially it depends on the charge or the type of the charge. So mock charges, if you think about elephants, that same idea will happen. What I found about gorillas is there's such a huge physical presence that it's everyone knows that. So that charge, I was knocked over by a female Grauer's gorilla when I was in Congo, and that was not running or charging. Simply, I was in the way. It wanted to go to somewhere behind me and just kept on walking. And I had ducked my head. I'd knelt down, trying to be submissive, and I just got walked straight as if I wasn't even there. So they do mock charges, and it's, if you think also chimpanzees the same. They're very, very vocal, very aggressive, or trying to show that aggression because it's all I'm the big guy, and it's that same idea. But a lot of unless you're that alpha male or you are the silverback within the gorillas, you're not going to make that charge. You're going to run away normally, because again, as I say, that behavior is shaped by the silverback. The silverback very much so will run at you, and if you're not lucky enough, they'll keep running. But the females are less. Whilst they were protection of babies and young, that's probably the only time I'd see it happen. But yeah.
No, it's amazing. Like, because even me, I noticed the differences between chimps and gorillas. You know, when you go to Kibale, we saw them running around and screaming and hitting tree trunks with their hind legs, and like grooming, of course, and a lot of screaming and noise, foraging at the same time. And then you go to Bwindi, and you see the gorillas more relaxed. You know, it's like deep jungle on the mountain, and it's very difficult to see them. Like you said, there's so much vegetation. They don't move much during, like you say, morning when they have rest, like waking up, coming down from the nests, and eating, resting, getting ready for the day. And that's why you say, like, when the tourists, they come, it's usually this time of day. So I can imagine when you come in the afternoon, when we're just looking for them in a place maybe not so easy as Bwindi or Kibale, where everybody's known to the rangers, it must be very tricky to get a decent picture. Like, you guys, I don't know how it works. You bring all your lenses with you, or like the guys help you to carry some of it. It's a lot of gear, huh?
It is a lot of gear. I carry my own gear. I guess that's more. I don't need to because people offer to do it, but I guess I'm a bit of a stubborn lad, ex-military. I'm like, no, if I carry my stuff, I will carry it myself, and feel the impact of it as I get older each day later. It's fascinating. I've really enjoyed photographing primates in that kind of environment, that kind of habitat. And you get to use the lack of light. It's very different from on a safari on a savanna, how to do that. But with the advances in technology and camera gear and lenses and ISO, and therefore how you can get rid of noise, it makes things a whole lot easier, and you're allowed to push those cameras a whole lot further. Yeah, it is. But it's not only that, it's a crazy environment to take all the humidity, the rain, the mud, to take those cameras into and be able to look after them. And again, I date back to my time in the army doing jungle warfare in places like Brunei and Belize, learning how to look after myself and my equipment. I bring that forward into what I do now. Yeah.
Sure. And the environment you're in now, like on the Tanzanian coast, is very, very much different. Any, conservation initiatives you want to mention maybe quickly before we finish this?
Yeah, I mean, I've only been here, 6 months now, and I've had the absolute privilege to work with a young, or it's not young, it's been going since 2002, but it feels young, a very small Tanzanian NGO called Sea Sense. Marine conservation, obviously with us being on the coast, and they're looking at sea turtles and sea turtle conservation. Key elements are their green sea turtle hatching sites up and down the Tanzanian coast and on the surrounding islands. So I've been out there documenting their work and supporting their work to actually, so they can showcase in their reporting on social media and highlight some of the amazing stuff they're doing. Sea turtles, green sea turtles at the moment. So last year, about October last year, came off the critically endangered list, or the endangered list by IUCN for the first time. And that's from work that's been done. So the idea is that these hatching sites, for a number of different reasons, but largely through to predation, pollution, both natural and human, are causing a lot of nests to fail. And what's fascinating about the little sea turtles is their sex, depending on the temperature of the sand when they're eggs, which blows me away. But unfortunately, with climate change, it means that that's going to be skewed one way to the females and not the males, and that's going to have a huge impact on population size. But what amazing stuff they're doing is going and finding these. They use conservation officers of the local communities to pace up and down the beaches, look for tracks, trails, and signs that turtles have come ashore, find those nest sites, and then group them all together in a central location to stop predation, both natural and otherwise. Wait for them to go through their incubation period, and then release them into sea. And to see over 100 small little baby turtles, the size I could probably fit 3 in the palm of my hand, make this epic journey from their nest site down to the ocean. It sends goosebumps up my spine every time I see it. And that's like, I don't know, what's the human equivalent of that? Day one, you're born, you have to make this epic journey, and it's just inside your head. You don't know why, but I need to go there. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, it's like salmon going up the creeks. It's like baby fishes.
Exactly.
Same place. No one knows why and how. And the turtles, you were mentioning the threats to them. Is it like bushmeat? Is it stray dogs? I heard stray dogs also cause a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Stray dogs, honey badgers, palm nut vultures. That's for all basically the young ones on land. And then when they get to sea, then it's bycatch by fishermen. It's pollution, lots of plastic pollution. It's also, and plastic pollution is quite a crazy one. So turtles, when they first start their life, are omnivorous, and have a little, have it like the taste of jellyfish. Jellyfish looks very much like single-use plastic carrier bags. And so they're getting eaten them and really ruin them. So there's a whole load of different threats to them. Obviously with climate change, all of those kind of ideas that come through are having a huge impact on the populations. But it's work by awesome organizations like Sea Sense that actually allow the populations to come off the IUCN Red List. That's that. And but I think I put that in brackets because that's the global population. The local populations around the world are faring very differently. Whilst numbers are increasing, definitely it's not steady across the board, if that makes sense. So there are still areas of huge concern.
Yeah, I'm sure. But it's, like you said, it's hopeful globally, but in some areas the situation must be very different. Same with the building, like this, there are too many hotels on the beach. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure the turtle will not come to hatch or to lay their eggs at that place if there's too much movement, too much human population. Pollution is a complete other story. Like the ocean it's not ruined, but it's in very bad shape in many places. And I'm sure turtles, even if it's not bits of plastic, maybe it's lead, maybe it's some kind of irritant or ingredient in the ocean sea water that is not good for them, and maybe makes them have less eggs, or like you said, the weather warming is also changing the sex of the turtles when they hatch or when they develop in the egg. So, and what do you do, like concretely? Like, do you document when they work, taking photography, video as well, or is it mostly photography?
Right. It's photography that I'm using, but also they're using videos and that to document what they're doing. So yes, it's documenting how many are successful eggs, how many are not, the reasons for that. That's kind of the level they'll go to. As far as sexing a little turtle, that's not what gets done at that point. It's success of those eggs, and it's looking at how or where that changes up and down over time. So as I say, they've been doing this since 2003. So they got quite a good data set to understand those trends within the region. But you're right with regards to light population, coastal development, the impact of that, because that's, yes, the females coming ashore. Again, innate imagination or ability with that little baby turtle that's taken that first steps down the beach is also taking cues, magnetic cues, internal cues of where it's come from. So when it goes out thousands of kilometers, it can come back to that same beach again. And if that beach isn't there because of maybe coastal development or erosion, then again, what does it do and the impact that's having on the populations? So yeah, I agree with you.
The NGO is aggregating, I don't know, you say several nests at the same place to make it easier to watch. I guess it's done like in a small area so that the turtles do not all come back to the same beach, all of them. So there's a few sites now.
There's a number, there's lots of sites up and down the coast. So when I say centralized, it's always on that same beach. They're not taken off a beach and put on another. And they're all done with international protocols. What does that mean? Breaking it down for me to understand how I was told is that within a bucket, they'd uncover the nest, put the eggs in a specific order. So top going in first, and then they go back in the same order into the ground for incubation. So it's messing them with as little as they can, but still ensuring the success of the nest. That's not to say that water, other not predators necessarily, but ants and all sorts of things that can get in there do spoil nests, but not to the degree that you'll see otherwise.
Yeah, of course. And those sites, they are watched by like volunteers from the community, or how does it work? Are they being paid,
Correct.
to make them like?
Yes, they're being paid as conservation officers. So Sea Sense have trained them, extensive training to be fair, of how both to look for the trails and tracks of a sea turtle coming up the beach. And the females are quite canny, so they won't just literally go one-to-one site, dig and lay their eggs and then go back in the sea. They'll make a number of different routes. So they'll go and do a decoy, a diversion nest and dig, and then another one to put predators off. So they're trained of how to, number one, spot that. Number two, how to look after them and move and look at the rest of it. And yeah, so what's great with Sea Sense, and I'm listening to a number of your previous podcasts, you're talking about local communities and this conservation organization of how it's not just sea turtles that are looked after, but they're providing capacity building with regards to local governance within those coastal communities. They're providing power to those people to be able to stand up and have a voice for themselves. So they're doing some really amazing work, but yes, they're all employed by, those conservation officers are employed by Sea Sense.
That's amazing what they're doing. It's good to know that the ocean part, of Tanzania is taken care of, as well as the traditional, I'll say, mammals, wildlife, chimpanzees and gorillas are something that everybody knows. There are studies, there are habituation. Not many people know how it works, but at least they know they are being protected. They know they are endangered. But when you talk about turtles, they think about the giant turtles maybe, or the Galapagos. But the green turtles, like you said, it's a species that's everywhere. And those nesting sites, it's a very tricky situation. It's like you say, they lay their eggs, they go away. If honey badgers come or stray dogs and they dig out the nest, I'm sure they kill everything inside, and it can go very, very fast. Is Sea Sense also acting towards nurturing the dogs or something, or is it someone else doing this?
No, they're not. They're very much focused on the marine conservation. Now, whether the local communities are, through those conservation officers, are keeping the dogs away, that would be my suggestion of what's happening on there. Sea Sense, marine conservation makes it very, very difficult because you rightly say it's not just in a national park that's fenced off. It covers oceans, it covers seas, mangroves, so many different, and their migration, similar to birds, their migration routes are global and transborder. So it makes it very, very hard at the different areas to look after it.
So what's your future? Is it still you're going to stick with Sea Sense? You have a few other projects on the side, photography-wise, or what's your?
So sticking with Sea Sense, but I'm also looking at writing a book whilst I'm here. So I wrote 2 books whilst I was in Rwanda. I'm looking at broadening that out. At the moment, I'm not entirely sure what that looks like, but Tanzania is so many times bigger than Rwanda. The opportunities to work with conservation organizations are therefore expanded likewise. So I'm reaching out to a number of different organizations in different sectors, or looking at different conservation issues. And that's really where I'm hoping to put my piece, to go and document and help support, provide photos and images, but then also write about the issues and some of the topics that I'll be documenting as well. So that's kind of where I'm going with the work. It's great.
Well, it's been very interesting. Thank you. We learned a lot today about gorillas, Grauer's gorilla, which is very different. I'll try to post a few pictures maybe, but it's good to know that there are people still trying to showcase their work, but linked to conservation, help the scientists ID the primates, and help the good work of Sea Sense or other organizations be known outside of Tanzania. And I hope this podcast will help kidogo to spread the good news.
I completely agree. I think that's my message to wildlife photographers, right? Is we can take that photograph. What do we do with that photograph? What's the meaning? What's the purpose? Yeah. How can you have an impact and effect? If you're a photographer of wildlife, you have something inside your heart and inside your brain that's actually pushing you to do that. But how can you then have an impact? And for me, it's very much, I have a young 7-year-old daughter, and I know I've had amazing wildlife experiences, both with her and on my own, but I want her to have those experiences when she's my age. And that's only going to help when we stand up and actually say something. I think it's David Attenborough. He said it really best. He said, no one will protect what they don't care about, and no one will care about what they've never seen or experienced. So if I can, and I work and help and support the work of conservation organisers. I'm not a conservationist as such. I haven't got the academic background and pedigree. But if I can have an impact and help support them, then for me, that's a win-win.
Yeah. Clearly, the power of images is real, and conservation goes through science, how do you say, habitats protection, community outreach. But doing all this without any images going out, then no one knows what's happening. So photographers, wildlife photographers, storytellers, the job you guys are doing is amazing, and it's helping so much, so much. This is about Africa, but it's happening everywhere in the world. And it's just a good thing and a hopeful message. I want this to be hopeful. And I know you guys are doing and will keep doing an amazing job. Sea Sense, gorilla doctors, storytellers like yourself. So no, I was very happy to talk to you today, Will.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure, my friend.
Yes. I'll see you soon in Tanzania, hopefully next year, I think.
That'd be great. I look forward to it, my friend. Thank you for having me.
You have a very good day.
And you. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.